it was created through naturalistic processes. Our ability to understand whether or not something was created through naturalistic processes doesn't necessarily mean that it was or was not. There could be undiscovered processes that could result in that. Now, I would argue that religious consistency should be consistent, because if you are having a spiritual experience, you are in the presence of God, and I would believe you are connecting to God, and I don't think that sin necessarily can even exist in the presence of God by Christian standards, that he washes away. So the connection itself, that Satan himself is changing these visions to be of Krishna or Buddha, I think doesn't really follow. If there is a God, if we are trying to connect with him, if we are doing everything we can, that sin not of our own choosing, but just because there is sin in the world, can thwart our attempts and give us a false impression, is at the very least unfair. Because if someone is trying to connect with God, they should be able to do it if they are willing. And I would argue there are plenty of willing people in all of the other religions. Not that all of them are, but there are some. As well, I would like to mention that just the very fact of the thousands of denominations of Christianity is a testimony to the fact that people really aren't communicating with God. If there was a one true God that people were communicating to, there would be more of a consensus on some of the major points. There are not all of the points of contention between denominations are tertiary issues. Many of them are very major issues. There are plenty of sects that believe that other Christian sects are going to hell because they don't realize the truth. So I would argue that religious consistency should be more consistent, because if you're praying to God and you're open, and I would argue there are definitely people in every sect that is open to this, and generally believe that they are hearing from God, there would be more of a consensus. God would be answering them if they are honest. And otherwise, then what is even the point? Because you have no way of knowing whether or not you're actually hearing the truth from God, or you're feeling the truth from God, not that you're hearing voices in your head. You really have no way to tell. Now, my argument really wasn't that it was wasteful, that the way that God designed the universe, just that not exactly logical. Based on what you said, and I'm very glad you said this, the best plan is the one that gets the most people saved. That is, I'm very happy you said that. And I'll continue on that in just a second. You said that God waited to pick the perfect time to reveal himself, yet he did reveal himself after Eden. He spoke with Cain and Abel, which was after Eden. So he spoke with those guys, and maybe he spoke with them after and it didn't get recorded. But there wasn't this sudden, you're expelled from Eden, I'm going to wait until the perfect moment. This was, I'm going to hang out for a while, stop, and then I'm going to continue at some point later. And I don't think this really follows that this is the plan that gets the most souls saved. Let's see, you mentioned something about, perfect beings. My argument before with the computer analogy wasn't that we can understand the naturalistic explanations of the universe. It's that you are saying that as we can see, we can look at the universe and we can tell that it is likely that there is an omnipotent, omniscient being, that we can use these logical forms, and yet we could create a universe inside a computer with actual intelligent beings. This isn't available yet, but it's certainly possible. That to those beings would seem just like this world. The thing is, we could be inside, not like the Matrix.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Wildcard. Not inside the Matrix, but what this universe is could be something so much more grand, and that what created us might even be an intelligence, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's an intelligence that is aware of our existence. As far as I know, we don't know what is smaller than a quark. A quark is 1/3 of an electron, I believe, or an atom. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that if you were able to split up a quark, that it would split up into trillions and trillions of the different pieces, and that might form an actual universe. If that were actually possible, I'm not arguing that it is, but I'm just saying that whoever split up that quark to do that would technically be the creator of the universe. But that doesn't mean that creator is actually aware of our existence. this entire universe, to whoever created it, could just be a few seconds to them, or that we could just be some third grader, some advanced being's third grade science experiment. You can't really show that that isn't the case. Now, my argument against that God arbitrarily puts people in hell, not against, but for, is that if the Christian religion is true, he created them for that purpose, just to suffer, because you argue that it's the sin that puts him there, but I'd argue that he has the great ability to easily save everyone without necessarily directly violating free will, in that he doesn't directly force you. But just me, just myself, if I was granted immortality and the ability to move through time, I would technically be able to control the entire universe, because I could go back to every single point in time and affect it just ever so slightly until I get the exact response that I want, and then move forward. This is something that, not even without omnipotence or omniscience, just with that ability, I would be able to make the world into how I wanted it to be. So just any of the three major concepts of God, omnipotent, omniscient, and without necessarily time, would violate free will, because he created everything about us. He knew us before he did. If you were put in India right now, I'm not going to argue that you wouldn't be a Christian, but do you really think you'd be the same person you are right now? How many people that have died, who have died non-Christians, would have been Christians if they had just been moved to a different location? If they had been if they had been brought up with the next door neighbor. I want to mention that less suffering, suffering by itself is not necessarily evil. I'm not arguing that morality is what causes the least amount of suffering, but what is more beneficial. I would argue that good, that what we can understand what the desires of a species is, to be able to replicate safely, and is what necessarily would be defined as good, and grow and learn. I would argue that seeking knowledge in that case goes along with that. On your morality, on your moral absolutes, though, I would argue that we don't necessarily all agree on morality. There are people that do disagree, that don't believe that it's not okay to kill people randomly. There are people that would kill someone as easily as... Thank you, Wildcard. There are people that would kill anyone as easily as many of us in this room kill an NPC in Grand Theft Auto. Now, we do that because we really don't think they have any thoughts or feelings or emotions, but these people do it because they simply don't care, and they don't recognize it as wrong in any way. So the very existence of sociopaths, which we can tell is actually from a physical place inside the brain, the fact that they lack this empathy that's not of their own choosing, I think goes against your arguments. Now, I would also say, with your point against the rabbi, that it was today and not in yesteryear, that's even more damning for your point, because back then, supernatural claims were more readily accepted. There wasn't knowledge, and today we actually see the person dead. That point is not in contention. I would argue that if you look at the Christian history, Jesus probably did exist, but he did die on the cross. He wasn't resurrected. But through cognitive dissonance, they eventually came up with a way, whether or not it was on purpose, but just like with this, they invented an excuse in their own minds to say that, no, he has actually defeated death, and slowly in time, it only took a couple of years, that you can take this real event of his death and non-resurrection and turn it into the myth that started. And people could convince themselves of this. We see this sort of thing today. So I think your whole eyewitness testimony thing is not necessarily true. As well, that eyewitness testimony is what we have to believe on faith, I think is quite terrible, because that's really not a good determinant of anything, whether or not we believe a second-hand testimony. And thank you.
Okay, thank you for both the debaters here, and once again, thank you to everyone here who is watching this debate. We appreciate you being here. We're now going to be moving into the